Welcome back to episode 2 of Mainstay, Depth and Rotate. In this episode, we'll be looking at the midfielders. Let's get into it. Now, just like episode 1 where I talked about the defenders, I'm going to talk about who is the sort of mainstay, in my opinion, in our squad. So, your best 23 sort of guys. Who's the depth that could come in if, any injuries or sort of anything. And then, obviously, rotation. So, let's just jump straight into it. The first guy I've got here is Darcy Cameron. Now, Darcy Cameron, I feel like he's going to be our number 1 ruck going forward. That's not to say that Cox isn't playing. I've got Cox as a rotation. But I think Darcy Cameron is going to play more in the ruck than he does pinch hitting in the forward line. But we know that he can go into the forward line if we need that, especially with Mainstay out. Cameron and Cox, they do drop back sometimes to cover that sort of defense, give a tall person into the in the defending line and take good intercept marks. They're really good for that. Darcy Cameron, though, from the training sessions I've seen, he's just been an absolute fire. And if you talk to anyone else who is watching training, they would say the exact same thing, that Darcy Cameron looks like a man possessed and not sort of a point to prove or a chip on his shoulder sort of thing, just that he's going to hopefully or possibly take his game to the next level. He's already a premiership ruckman, so what other levels can he go to? But I'd love at the end of the year, I'd love for people to consider him a top 5 ruckman that we got for literally a pack of salt and vinegar chips, which in my opinion is the best flavored chips. Next, we've got Nakos. So Nick Dacos has been training predominantly with the midfielders. He won't be coming out of that midfield. I know when I talked about defenders, I had him rotating off halfback. If we need that sort of cool head, like what I said in that previous video, if we need that sort of cool head, probably he goes down back as that sort of quarterback to sort of set up the play, run out from halfback if we need it, maybe take a couple of kick-ins, but predominantly a midfielder, has been training there for, I reckon, 99% of the time at training. So midfielder Nick we're about to see, and that's where he can go to the next level. Third guy, deeeeeep. deeeeeep here, Nick Dacos said that he's going to have an even greater year than last year. We finally saw deeeeeep's potential last year. He was everything that we wanted him to be. And this year is probably his best year at an All-Australian jersey. I know, the thing with deeeeeep is this is his first uninterrupted preseason in God knows how long, so that's a bonus for him. The second thing is, the last 4 or 5 years, we've always said this is the year deeeeeep is going to get the All-Australian. This is the year. Unfortunately, last year it wasn't his year, but I definitely think he's got that All-Australian blazer coming to him this year, because he looks more powerful than he ever has. Penetrating kick, running through packs at training, and I can't wait to see him and Nick Dacos give a bit of a 1-2. Jacos, our Copeland Trophy winner, he'll be on one of the wings, side bottom on the other wing as your mainstay wingers. Beauty about Sidey at the moment is that he's come out and said that he feels like he's 25, he can go on forever. That's what we like to hear. There was a time when we thought side bottom, I even thought side bottom, I think it was at the end of 2019, was like, let's just trade him while he has currency or whatever I was saying, all the crap I was sort of dealing back then. But Sidebottom had, I don't know stats-wise, but I feel like a career best year last year. I know it's not an All-Australian year or whatever, but I feel like he just exceeded expectations. Even, coming back from that, was it the MCL knee injury against the Kangaroos that he got in his 300th game. So for Sidey to come back from that and pick up where he left off and just didn't look like he's been out for whatever it was, 6, 7, 8 weeks. Just a testament to him. Next guy, we've got Jack Crisp. Like Nick Dacos, Jack Crisp, we're going to see more in the midfield. Yes, we'll see him probably more on the half-back line than we will Nick Dacos, just because of, when I was talking about the defenders, Jack Crisp's kamikaze sort of style of football where get the ball, no plan, just run as far as you can in the midfield and just create something out of nothing. Scott Pendlebury is my other mainstay here. I know in a video a couple of weeks ago, I said we probably shouldn't rely on him too much. And I still sort of back that where, you want Nakos, deeeeeep, Crisp, McRae even to sort of step up another level. Not take over from Pendles, but just not rely on him to sort of put into the midfield and sort of win those games for you. But even though I still stand by that, I'm going to be a bit of a hypocrite here and just say that strike while the iron's hot. We saw in the grand final where he was pretty much a coach on the field, and that's the thing about Pendles. You're not only getting like an ex-captain and a guy that's played 400 games, you're getting an on-field coach who works so well with Craig McRae. So if he's in the midfield all the time, just leave him in there. Again, strike while the iron's hot. And the last guy, of course, in the Mainstay's best 23 squad is Tom Mitchell, who I said it at the start of last season was Luke Ball 2.0. And, you know, without his presence there, we don't win as many games as we did, and we probably don't go on and win a grand final. He is exactly what we needed, what we lacked against Sydney in the prelim 2 years ago, and we get that back. So Titch is obviously a mainstay. Now, these depth players haven't played a lot of games, but these are the guys that I see coming up next. You know, when Tom Mitchell, when Pendlebury, Crisp and Osidi, all these guys start sort of slowing down a little bit. We've got Finn McRae. Huge raps on Finn since we signed him. He's shown so much faith in the Pies without playing any sort of like consecutive games. We saw him in the Essendon game last season, came on for, I think it was like 40% of game time and had 9 tackles or something ridiculous as an inside midfielder. He's taken his game to another level this season already, just with like the preseason training. He looks bigger, he looks fitter. So expect him to, I reckon, start round 0 or round 1, somewhere around that area. Ed Allen is still Sidebottom's natural successor. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Ed Allen this year, but I remember, and I've said this numerous times, a couple months after we signed him, like we drafted him, they signed him to like a 2 or 3 year contract. So they've got big raps on Ed Allen, and he's just a really tall winger or midfielder. Expect him to come in for Sidey if they're sort of looking at blooding a little bit of youth. Oscar Steen, Aiden Begg. You know, Steen is a really good story. SSP, we took him over Markov at the start of last season, was on the rookie list. He gets elevated to the senior list this year. I think his contract ends at the end of 2024. So they're going to have really big really big seasons in the VFL. I don't think, you know, we've seen a little bit of Aiden Begg when we didn't have any ruckman. I don't think we see a lot of them at all in the senior squad, barring any injuries, touch wood. And the last guy I've got here as depth is Carmichael. Carmichael I feel like he's a little bit susceptible to concussions at the moment, so you've got to sort of really be careful with that. But he dominates in the VFL. He's played a couple of really good games with the AFL squad, kicking a couple of goals here and there. Was that one game against Essendon where he kicked 2 or 3 goals? That might have been the Jamie Elliott game, if memory serves me correctly. But I really like Carmichael at that sort of depth player if we sort of need to. And he probably rotates through like a forward line as well, but I've got him more as a depth player. So now looking at our rotations. So we talked about Mason Cox at the start of the video with Darcy Cameron. I think Mason Cox, especially without McStay, plays a lot more in the forward line. I don't really think it'd be 50-50 with Cameron. I think maybe 70-30 or 60-40, but I dare say Cox plays a little bit more in the forward line. Demeter, I've got here as well. Demeter could be a bit of depth, but I've got him as rotate because Hein and the coaches said that when he does debut, it'll be off the half back line. And so we talked about him as being a bit of depth in the half back line. And we've got that rotation of Demeter here. So the last 2 guys, Jamie Elliott, I've got as a rotation because we've seen Jamie Elliott go into the centre and, you know, do really well there. So when he goes into the centre, Jordan De Goey comes out, and Jordan De Goey, you know, kicks 2 or 3 goals that we need him to in the forward line that he was known for at the start of his career. So that's a good sort of 1-2 swap. The last guy I've got here is Bo McCreary. I dare say Bo will play the majority in the forward line, but for most of the training sessions, he's been training with the midfielders. He looks strong, he looks powerful, more like quicker than he was last season, which is ridiculous because he is already so quick. So expect to see him using his pace sort of up and down the wing. I talked about Will Hoskin-Elliott being like a box-to-box midfielder or arc-to-arc midfielder. I think Bo could be that guy as well, especially with Taylor Adams out. I know we've got Lockie Schultz in that half-forward line, but I think Bo, you know, creating that sort of synergy with De Goey is going to be really good. 2 bulls in the midfield, you know, what else can you expect? But, you know, Bo's defensive work around the forward line is going to be very much needed. So that's why I've got him as a rotate. And how could I forget? The last player I've got here is Lipinski. So I've got Lipinski as a rotation. Look, he could be probably a mainstay, but I've got him as a rotate mainly off the bench. Something does have to give. So Lipinski, or it could be off the sub bench. So we could see Lipinski take that sort of sub role, or like Will Huskinelli. We talked about him possibly taking that sub role. Great role player, penetrating kick, and can hit a target. One of the best kicks we have in the squad. So I don't think his sort of depth. I don't see him playing VFL or anything like that. He will be in the match day squad. It's just how they use him. Do they use him as a higher half forward, a defensive forward like they used him on Coleman in the grand final? So that's going to be really interesting sort of what they do with Lipinski. But anyway, guys, this has just been episode 2 of Mainstay, Depth and Rotate. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. But until then, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, double shaggers, I'll swoop you later.